That's awesome. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining this morning. Today we've got Sue from Sookio, basically, walking through what is the enigma of social media and essentially how to position your brand as a result of it. So, as always, if you've got questions, Sue would like this to be sort of a more informal session than normal. So if you have questions, please ask. A bit more engagement would be awesome as well. There are one or two slides, but really it's your session to get answers to your questions as well. So make sure you ask the questions that you want to take away in terms of content. With that, likewise, if you want to share your contact details in the chat, please do so. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Sue, if that's okay.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, thank you, Ollie. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sue, and as Ollie was saying, I run a digital marketing agency in Cambridge called Sookio, and I've been knocking around in social media since the early days, really. And it's really interesting to see how things have evolved over the years. And I'm getting a real sense at the moment that, well, I don't know if developers have just had too much time in their hands over the last year, but it seems to be there's even more platforms than before. There's even more features, things like Clubhouse. Has anyone tried Clubhouse in the last year? Yeah, a couple of people. I'm slightly grumpy about Clubhouse because it's only on iPhones. It's not on Android. And I'm kind of thinking that the whole thing might just blow over before I have to spend too much time looking into it. But anyway, TikTok, the explosion of TikTok. You've got everywhere seems to be bringing in stories. So this more disposable content that disappears in 24 hours. You can get that on LinkedIn now. Twitter has got fleets, similar kind of thing. And so it can be quite tricky to decide, well, where do you actually want to position yourself in the middle of all of this? And everyone's got limited resources. Not everyone has got the budget of Starbucks and McDonald's and Nike and all the rest of it. Most of us who run businesses, it might be just you on your own or a really small team, and no one's really got thousands and thousands to spend all the time. So I'm always interested to think about what can you do with what you've got, with maybe a limited amount of resources, and where you position yourself in this so that you're spending time in the best way. So just quickly, before, I have got slides, but like Ollie was saying, I'm also quite keen to make it quite chatty. And also, instead of giving you all the answers, I've got loads of questions today. I've got 7 big questions to ask, which you can then think about. So just tell me in chat a little bit about how much you use social media already. So are you people who use it all the time, all day long, or are you just getting started and need tips on how to dive in? So yeah, let's look on chat if we can see that. I'm going to say hello as well in chat. Okay, you've got LinkedIn Daily from Simone. Daily, says Tanya, lovely. Yeah, lots of daily users. Okay, great. Yeah, so we've got a few people here. It's less about where to start completely from scratch. Yeah, so you're not complete novices, but it's possibly more about how to kind of sharpen up what you're doing already. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Got a TikTok user, fantastic. Okay, this is all brilliant. Right, so I'm going to do the sharing screen thing. So can everybody see that okay? And then, like I say, there'll be regular opportunities to kind of dive in and ask questions, and I'm going to get my glamorous assistant Ollie to help me on that front. So so the questions that I'm going to ask are going to cover things around goals, audience, really important to think about the audience, competitors and what they're up to, tone of voice, visual content, resources, and then your own personal preferences as well, which I don't think we should overlook. So thinking first of all, I've just asked you a little bit about that as well. So we've got this download. I put this together the other day. We did one for copywriting, and also we've just done one for social media as well. And it really strikes me at the moment that we're on the cusp of things really picking up again. So a lot of businesses are opening up again from the 12th. having, you know, gone through their third enforced closure over the last year. And I think it really feels to me at the moment that there's a lot of money kind of sat there locked away that people are looking forward to spending again. So now is a really good time to think about your social media positioning, but then also the copy on your website and how you present yourselves online. So we have got this download, which will help you go through it all and think through some of the things I'm going to talk about today, and just kind of like a neutral document that you can run through and get everything in order. So yeah, so goals. It's really important to think about what you want from social media and what you're trying to achieve. So the thing about social media is that it's really fun. You know, you can spend hours chatting to people, discovering new things. You could also spend hours getting into arguments with people, and that's how I see a lot of people spending their time on social media. But where does that leave you as a business? You know, you need to be really thinking really precisely about what you want to actually get out of it. Otherwise, you're just kind of spending this time in a rather kind of, you know, scattergun approach. And then you're thinking, well, we're spending hours a week as a business on social, but what are we actually getting back from it? So it's not always about direct sales. Sometimes it can be just about making a noise. So it can be things around, maybe you've launched a new product over the last year, or you've changed the nature of your services. A lot of people have gone into, they've made, you can have home deliveries now and that kind of thing, whereas you couldn't before. It could be that you just want to, maybe you've launched in a new location, that kind of thing. Anything around making a noise. I've got a bit of noise in the background, sorry about this. It could be about community as well. So hang on a second. The joys of actually having teenagers that are doing housework. I mean, yay, go me. I've got teenagers doing housework and now they're hoovering while I'm trying to do this workshop with you all. So, so community around building a following. So not all of your social media activity will be around, yeah, trying to make sales directly there and then. Sometimes it can be about just getting that kind of loyal community of people who love you and your business and your services and who want to talk to you about it and also share information with other people as well. It could be about making sales, so selling tickets, getting people to sign up for things, getting people to download white papers. It could be any of those kind of direct conversions. Engagement, so staying front of mind with people, so they don't just walk into your shop and then go away again and they never think of you. And then customer service as well. So a lot of places use it for, say, if you're utilities companies or travel companies, that kind of thing. So just to give you a couple of examples, so like these people on the left, they've got a clear call to action there. They want people to download this guide and then they're hoping they'll get people into their system. The people on the right, I've been doing some social media workshops with businesses in Huntingdonshire recently. And a lot of the high street businesses there, they want to build up that community and get that engagement going. So people are always thinking about them. And if they want to buy some lovely cakes, they might go into their shop. Or O2, the one down at the bottom, they use social media for a lot of customer service. So people will say, oh, my phone's not working, and they'll tweet them, and then the customer service team will try and do something about it. So think about yourselves. What are you trying to achieve from social media? And if anyone wants to pop something in chat, then go for it. What kind of goals do you have? Let me see if I can. What have we got here? Awareness, yeah, driving traffic, that can be a big one. So if you're creating original content like blog posts or videos, then social media can be a brilliant way of actually driving people to the website. Yeah, building a following, really important. Awareness of services. Yeah, I mean, thinking back to this time last year, there's I live in Ely, and the Ely Gin Company started to do a thing where it looked a bit like a milk float, and they were doing gin deliveries. And I ordered this bottle of gin just before starting work, and then it was delivered at 6 o'clock in the evening to me. So I took a picture of it and put it on Instagram, and then loads of people were saying, "I didn't know there was a gin truck going around," and it all spread. So I was part of their social media community. Other people saw me posting that, it didn't come from them, the brand themselves, and then other people went on to buy their products. And that's one of the joys of social media, this kind of advocacy that you get from people as well. Advertising awareness for events, yep, definitely. Online sales, yeah, all of these things. So there's so many benefits that you can get from social. So if you make notes as we go, then yeah, hopefully at the end of it you'll have a mini strategy put together. So the next thing, and this is so important when deciding which social media platforms you want to focus your energy on, you need to be where the audience is. So if you think of it like fishing, then you want to fish where the fish are. If there's a particular type of fish you're trying to catch, then you want to go in either saltwater or upstream or all of this kind of thing. So a lot of people I've had conversations before, maybe with someone that does ophthalmic devices, saying, well, should we set up a Facebook page? And you think, well, not really, because that's not where your customers are when they're in that kind of buying frame of mind. So you're thinking more about LinkedIn, for example. So if you're B2C, so business to consumers and customers, then I'll run through these in a second. That will affect the kind of platforms you focus your energy on. Whereas if you're trying to sell to people in more professional services, then LinkedIn might be better for you. And this is somewhere that I see people wasting a lot of time and money. You hear of a new platform coming out, like TikTok, for example, and you think, right, we've got to be on TikTok. This is where we need to spend our time because it's the new thing and we need to look innovative. And then you realize, well, actually, it doesn't quite go with you as a brand, and it's not where the audience is. And you also need to be wary of spreading yourself too thin. And I'd much rather see people deciding, right, we're just going to do Facebook and Instagram, but do them brilliantly, instead of trying to be on every single platform going. So really think about your target customers and where they're likely to be found on social media. So a quick run through, quick refresh. Facebook, really good for kind of local niche communities. People are thinking about fun and family and fitness and food, all of that kind of more, it's more of your personal life than your professional side of things. People age 25, has anyone got teenagers that are rushing to set up a Facebook account? Probably unlikely. A lot of teenagers, they've grown up now and their parents have been putting pictures of them on Facebook since they were born, or maybe even before they were born. And so it's not where they want to be. It's a lot of these platforms are fairly even split between male and female too. And then Instagram, it's really good if you're a retailer. It's really good if you're a restaurant, hotel, travel, leisure, fitness, all of these things. People love seeing beautiful images. They love getting a little bit of a window into other people's lives. It's slightly younger than Facebook in its kind of the demographic, slightly more female. But then again, like all social media platforms, if it depends very much on you as a business who's going to be following you. Twitter, if anyone here is not familiar with Twitter, it's very fast paced. People want news, they want chat, they want gossip. There's been loads of jokes all week about the boat that got stuck. You get this very quick, sort of snappy, fast paced environment in a way that Facebook, I quite often see jokes on Facebook that I've seen on Twitter a week before. The world's moved on slightly. It's slightly older, so the largest audience is 30 to 49, and there's slightly more of a skew to male. So yeah, if you're on Twitter, then you do need to come up with a slightly higher volume of activity and be on it a little bit more, I'd say. LinkedIn moves a little bit more slowly, and this is where you've got people in this very professional mindset. So it's people describing themselves with their job role, they're talking about work, they're talking about success stories, they're talking about projects, they're talking about their business. It's very much with their sort of suited and booted sort of way of looking at it. And then the largest age group there again is 46 to 55, so a little bit older. And it's pretty even between male and female. Pinterest is a bit of a a sleeper hit. I find you can put not very much stuff on there, but actually get really good impressions and views on it. Really strong for fashion, interiors, food design, anything where you need creative inspiration. And this is one where the demographic is much more female than male, and slightly older again, as opposed to TikTok, which is definitely for a younger audience. Not to say you can't use it if you're trying to reach older people as well, but it's really widely used among the 18 to 24-year-olds, slightly more skewed to women, and people want a bit of fun. You know, this is where you can let your hair down as a business, and you can do lip syncing, you can do dance moves, you can do funny captions. You know, it's a bit more for entertainment. YouTube, an amazing amount of people are on YouTube. I think 65% of people that are on it check it daily, and 72% of all internet users. And it's where, if you've got quite informative educational content, anything that starts off with how to, YouTube's brilliant. You know, it's where people go to learn, it's where they go to watch fun things, it's where they go to be informed. So it's a really big search engine in itself. So just make a few notes, really. Think about your own customers and where are they most likely to be found. And if anyone wants to drop anything into chat, then go for it.
So just on that topic, you know, when we think about Facebook's got 2.8 billion users, of which will be, you know, business owners. And if you're B2B, very much your demographic still uses Facebook. While I'm not suggesting that you would focus on that as your main channel, it's still a very relevant channel. And if you look at some of the paid adverts, they're very B2B, right? There's a strong element. Would you back that consensus?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing about Facebook is the advertising on it is really, really powerful. So if you think how much data we've all given away to Facebook over the years, they know everything. Whereas on Twitter, it's really easy to have an anonymous account. You might put here, there, and everywhere as your location or something abstract like that. Whereas on Facebook, people know your interests. They know whether you're male or female. They know if you're pregnant, getting married, you know, you've got children, all of that kind of data. And so this is what makes the advertising so powerful. So it's still a really effective way of reaching people who are B2B, but you might find the nature of what you put in your ads is different to, say, LinkedIn. It's really good to put out something that's really helpful. So a blog post that's helpful and helps them do something, or a guide to something. And try and make sure that the content is still fitting in this kind of Facebook frame of mind. So any ads that you put on Facebook are going to be next to people chatting about what they're doing at the weekend, people looking at pictures of their grandchildren, you know, so it still needs to sit in this slightly more B2C kind of framework. Otherwise it looks a bit jarring. So yeah, I there's a lot of people that we work with, they don't really use Facebook to update their page too frequently, the actual page, but they use it for the advertising. Same with TikTok, actually, because it's social media is so saturated. I'm seeing a lot of brands, like, I'm talking about big budget people, but Prada, the fashion brand, I don't think they update their TikTok page at all, but they just went straight in with the advertising, because that will help you leapfrog over everybody else.
I think about 5 years ago, there was a bit of a swing around, kind of, if you think that, you know, in a COVID era, we get to see everybody's houses, right? And we're exposing ourselves more and more. On Facebook, we were doing the same. I had connections reaching out to me on Facebook that I worked with from other organizations. We set up a Facebook group just over 12 months ago, which is a community for our you know, users to hang out and ask questions and interact with each other and that sort of thing. And the reason for that is that it's slightly more connected than a LinkedIn group.
Yeah.
And it's perceived as less threatening because it's in Facebook and not LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's some questions in here as well, actually, in the chat. So there's one from Alan, which is, you know, if we look at the half-life of social media, there is a huge difference. I mean, Twitter, like you say, Twitter, the half-life of a tweet is, you know, 1 or 2 minutes maximum, typically. Whereas something on LinkedIn is very resident, and you'll still see, you know, likes and impressions weeks out. From my side, you know, Twitter was very much part of the industry the IT industry, we loved Twitter because it was a way of basically shouting about new products and keeping the whole world up to date when you went to conferences. What's your thought process around the kind of half-life of different platforms and how to position yourself on those platforms?
Well, I think, like you say, yeah, Twitter is a lot more fast-paced, and so quite often we might use scheduling tools to put the same tweet out again several times, but maybe rewrite it slightly so it's not identical. And it's something that I see news organisations doing a lot, where, in fact, I had to stop following The Independent because they were putting out sort of 7 tweets in an hour, and it was all going round and round again, you know. So I think you need to think about your own resources and time. And like you say, something like LinkedIn, if you post on LinkedIn in the morning and then tell a few people or tag a few people that you know who might also comment, you'll see it gradually get engagement throughout the day. Whereas a tweet, like you say, might get a bit lost, which is not a reason to not be on Twitter. I mean, I'm a big fan of Twitter myself. But yeah, so think about your time and resources. And of course, yeah, about the people that you're trying to reach is a really important bit.
And that's a great segue into the question from Helen, which is, heavily biased towards LinkedIn as a B2B business. How do you find and target people? Again, it's finding audiences that resemble you and groups. But what other tips are there in terms of, on LinkedIn searching to try and build that network?
I think the interesting thing about LinkedIn is to not use it just for targeting. So try and be someone who is talking about interesting things that are relevant to what you do as a business. And then you'll gradually pick up people who comment and who start following you because you've got something to say. So it's not all kind of you going in that direction trying to reach people. What you should also be trying to do is act like a bit of a magnet so people start following you. So if you can start, at the very least, I'd say on LinkedIn, try and do something every day where, even if it's not an original post, you're commenting on other people's posts and clicking like and sharing and offering something of value to the conversation, so that then when you start posting something, you've started to build up this network, and people think, oh, okay, well, that's that person that commented the other day and said something really interesting, so I'll now comment back on her post. So it's also about building up this kind of feeling of goodwill that makes people want to connect with you and talk about these matters together, rather than only seeing it as this thing that where you're getting all the benefit. So the only time that you go on LinkedIn is purely to target people. Try and be this kind of magnet, really, someone who is genuinely interested in these topics in a way that means you want to talk about them all the time and share the knowledge. I think sharing knowledge on any social media platform is really, really alluring to people. It really makes people want to connect with you. Let me just move on to the next section as well, so that we can take questions as we go. So, right, we've had thoughts about audience. So, competitors, I can always hang around longer as well to chat about all this stuff. It's really important to think about your competitors and think about what channels they're using, what you make of their content. So you can have a happy half hour where you think about your competitors and just make a few notes and just really pay attention to how often they post, the sort of subjects that they post about, the nature of their social media activity, what you think is good. And then, of course, how different you want to be. So you might be thinking, okay, well, they're really great on Facebook and Instagram, so that means that's where the audience is, so maybe we should do something similar. Or you might think, well, because they're on Facebook and Instagram, then we're going to really focus on LinkedIn and make a really good job of that instead. Or you might think, well, we're a company that wants to be seen as really innovative and new, so yeah, we will go to TikTok, we will start, we'll set up rooms on Clubhouse that people can listen to. It's kind of this drop-in audio. We'll do something very different to them. So once you start looking at who else is out there, then that really helps you with your own positioning. What you don't want to do is be exactly the same as everyone else. So if your competitor does lots of how-to videos, then maybe don't do them, maybe do something else, or try a different format. But I think spending a little bit of time looking at the competitors really helps you decide, yeah, okay, well, they're doing that, so we're going to do this here. Here's the gap, here's where we can make ourselves interesting. It could be that you really think about your customers as well and think, well, actually, what do they need? And our competitors aren't addressing this need, so we'll set up this thing, we'll use this particular channel or whatever, and then we'll be able to address that need. So yeah, the sort of questions to ask is, what can you do better than your competitors? Have a little nose around, make some notes. That's the fun bit. And then really think to yourselves, how can you make yourself stand out, and also in a way that's sustainable? So if you did want to come up with a series of how-to videos because you think no one is in our industry is addressing these particular issues that customers have, then don't just do one, plan a series of 6. Or if you do want to go into TikTok, don't just do one short video. Make sure that you can keep at that volume of activity over time. Next thing to talk about is tone of voice. So thinking about your brand personality, so how you're perceived on your website and how that extends to your social media activity. And so what do you like? How do you talk to customers in other marketing channels, like your newsletters, your website, the existing social media channels that you've got, and also face to face, offline? What do you do, trade conferences or anything like that? How do people perceive you when they interact with you online, offline, website, social media, all this kind of thing? And then how can you carry it through onto social media? Because you want there to be this kind of consistent feel. I don't recommend posting exactly the same content across every single channel. It's nice to adapt it for each one, but you do need to make sure that customers feel like at every point they meet you, they're meeting the same kind of business. So it's not jarring. You talk in one very stiff, pompous way or very formal way on LinkedIn, and then Instagram is a bit more, hey, cocktails by the pool. So you do need to make sure there's this kind of consistent flow. So some of these words, just to start you off, you might think, well, we're quite a helpful brand, or we're very confident. Maybe if you work in professional services, you want to get across the idea that you're established and trusted and authoritative and quite sensible. Or you might want to be a bit more innovative and sparky and creative and chatty. So say you're retail and you do fitness wear, then you're going to talk in a very different way to a firm of solicitors. And then this will help you with positioning, because once you make a note of ways that you will talk, ways that you won't talk, platforms you will use, platforms you won't, then it helps you get that mini strategy in place. So just to give you a couple of examples to contrast, Innocent Drinks, they're really well known for their tone of voice. They're really funny. They use the platforms really, really well. They'll do little jokes. They'll make it quite topical. If you scroll down their Twitter feed, there's the person that runs it was having quite a lot of fun with the census form and what they would do as the social media manager for Innocent, how they'd fill in their job, what they do for a living. So they're very visual. They're a bit cheeky. All of that kind of thing, and they've got quite strong tone of voice guidelines to go with this. So they are a bigger brand. They'll have more than one person doing the social media, so they need to make sure that everything is within this kind of tone of voice. They are quite funny people to follow. And then by contrast, you've got Ernst & Young. So they've got a really strong visual style. They've got this yellow that flows through everything. They're using a lot of templates to make sure that there's this consistency. And then they're talking in a much more professional, businessy kind of manner. There's not a lot of jokes here. But it is very helpful content. It's very confident content. They are talking like people who know what they're talking about. They're talking about data and analysis, and they're making clear, bold statements. So it's very different to Innocent. So you can think about you as a brand and think, well, where do we sit in all of this? Are we lighthearted and fun and amusing, or are we trying to make it clear that we're the experts here and you can trust us? We've got very strong opinions, but based on data, that kind of thing. So it'll be different for different businesses. So yeah, have a think about your own brand personality, how you can carry it through onto social media. Is it in the way that you write the text? Is it going to be in visuals? How are you going to get this across? And how is it going to differ from platform to platform? So it might be that on Instagram, you do a bit more, and Facebook as well, behind the scenes stuff. So maybe you do team building events, or you have a team, I don't know, bake-off kind of competition. But then over on LinkedIn, you're talking a little bit more about the awards that you've won. How are you going to carry it through the different platforms and the different nature of the posts? Any questions on this, Ollie, before we move on to the next couple of questions?
Yeah, there was a number of questions in the chat. I think essentially there was a a great post from Sharon, which was basically, should you take it personally if you don't get any likes on your posts on LinkedIn? And the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
Number one, you're not in charge of the algorithm, so you don't know how many times that post has been seen. And to put that into perspective, PewDiePie, who broke the 100 million subscribers on YouTube, his first, I think it was it, keep me honest if you know the answer to this, but I think he did more than 1,000 videos before he got anywhere near 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, it was a slow burn, wasn't it, over time?
Yeah.
The interesting thing as well, I mean, we did some work quite a few years ago with an accountancy firm, and they were saying, oh, we're not getting any likes on Facebook. And then, but the thing is, when we looked at the data, they were getting lots of click-throughs to the website. And the reason for this is that they were talking about issues to do with divorce settlements, for example, or tax. And it's the kind of thing where people don't necessarily want to like or comment on Facebook because they know that other people in their network will see it, particularly the divorce articles. And so what they did want to do, though, is click on it and read it in their own time. So I think it's really important to think about what you're measuring and what is important to you. So it might be that engagement is really important, or it might be that you want website traffic. And so that's all part of your goals, to think about why you're using social media. And on LinkedIn in particular, it can be with a business page, like getting blood out of a stone, trying to get likes. So LinkedIn wants to push your personal profiles. So yeah, it will prioritize content coming from a person rather than a business. Equally, we've just talked about groups, and it used to be that groups on LinkedIn were at the forefront, and then LinkedIn quietly started to hide them away, to the point that I run a few groups on LinkedIn, and even I struggle to find them nowadays. Whereas on Facebook, groups are really high priority. So any posts that are made in a group that you follow will be pushed to the top of your feed. So if you do want to build up that kind of community feel, then yeah, Facebook can be brilliant for that. Even if it is more professional, businessy, it can still be a really good place for it. So to answer the question, don't worry too much about not getting loads of likes on LinkedIn, but think about how you're writing the post. I really like to start with a bold statement. So ask people a question, make a bang in the opening sentence, because it will truncate the post. So if you write your post in a really linear way and say, well, there I was at the coffee machine, and then I had this conversation with someone, then it really started to occur to me that whatever, and you don't make your big bold point until all the way down there, then no one's going to open the post, they're not going to read it. So that means you're not going to get the likes as well. If you flip it around, take that thing that's the real kind of crux of what you're trying to get across, put that right at the beginning. So it could be asking a question, it could be, yeah, a really bold statement. Who doesn't think that such and such? And people will read that and go, oh, well, I've got an opinion on that. I think I'm going to comment. So it can also be about how you write the post, making it more visual, adding video can be really good as well. And the thing about making posts visual is that it pushes everyone else's content further down the page, which means yours gets more attention. Any other questions?
I was just going to add to that as well. So if you think of how the velocity algorithm works on LinkedIn, when someone clicks more to read more about your post, when someone clicks like, when any interaction happens with that post, you're being fed back into the algorithm for more eyeballs. So the way that it works is you put something out into LinkedIn, LinkedIn monitors that post. If it gets 4 or 5 quick interactions, it thinks it's really useful, so it pushes it out to more eyeballs. And so you need to keep this constant feed effect. So asking a question at the beginning for someone to click more to read the rest of it, LinkedIn will go, okay, there's something interesting there. Let's get some more eyeballs on this post. So again, you're playing to the algorithms in doing that, right?
And the LinkedIn algorithm is actually quite basic, isn't it? So as you're saying, if it sees lots of people quickly, they see a post, they comment on it, they like and all that kind of thing, LinkedIn goes, oh, this must be good content, and then it makes sure that it's seen by more people. So an easy trick that you can do if you work in a company with quite a few employees, when you post, tell everybody else, just say, can you quickly comment on this? And that can be really effective. You do see people trying to game the system like this, and they have these pods, as you call it, and they will message a wide group of people, and they'll all go in there, and you can spot it because you've got just loads of people saying love or this is great or whatever, even if it's about some sort of insensitive topic. So yeah, you don't want to go that far, but LinkedIn is very basic on this front. Okay, visuals. Still thinking about positioning our brand. Have a think about what opportunities you've got for image and video. So social media platforms love image and video, and they will prioritize that kind of content. And it also helps you make a bit of an impact. So even if you're in professional services and you might think, well, we're in something that's relatively dry, for want of a better word, but finance, legal, that kind of thing, then you can still bring it to life with a really strong image. And if you're in, say, retail, you own a cafe, then it's so easy. You know, I've seen people on social media, they've got their chalkboard that they put outside the cafe every day, take a picture, and then they put that on Twitter. So brilliant, you know what cakes are at their cafe today. So that in a way is relatively easy. So what you need to focus on there is making sure it's really good. It's really, you know, lovely, it's beautifully shot and that kind of thing. But then if you're more professional services and you might think, well, what are we going to have that's visual? And maybe the office is quite straightforward. It's not, yeah, nothing stand out about it. Then you can still use visuals through quotes, testimonials. You can take stats. I've got some graphics, yeah, examples. You can still use any big stats from reports, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you're a cafe like these people, sorry, at florists, then that's really straightforward. They've got beautiful flowers every day. So just make sure you do a really good job of it and make sure the pictures are really artistic. This lady's posted this picture just by doing that. And someone's commented to say, I want your shoes. Or you can do other things if you're in retail. Take a time lapse when you're dressing the window, take a little time lapse on your phone and you can post that. So it can be really easy to make video content without spending £10,000 on hiring a production team to come in and do it. There's loads of ways on your phone that you can come up with lots of fun visual stuff. But yeah, so if you're professional services and you think, oh, well, we haven't got much that's visual, then there's so much that you can do. And I saw this from HubSpot when I was looking around for examples. They've got a little tip that they wanted to give people. And so this woman wrote it out and filmed it while she was writing it out. And I thought, well, that's really nice. So instead of just having that as a text post, then you've got some video footage, some video content that you've just created pretty much out of nothing. And there's so many ways that you can do this. You can use Canva. If anyone's come across Canva, to make a little testimonial. So if someone says something lovely about you, your team, then you can make a little testimonial graphic, put that on Instagram. Yeah, if you've done a survey, you've got a report, you've got some sort of data in a case study, you can make a graphic there. So I don't think there's any business that can really say they don't have visual content. But in terms of positioning, then you need to decide, well, what is this visual content going to be? Because there's such an opportunity to give it this kind of consistent look and feel. So yeah, so notes that you can write down. So what kind of opportunities have you got in your business for visual content? Think about the people in the team, the location. Maybe you work somewhere beautiful, or it's a boring office, but everywhere around is really pretty. What products have you got? Are you in food? Are you retail, fashion, that kind of thing? It just pretty much, you know, not writes itself, it visualizes itself. But then if not, there's so many opportunities for quotes and stats and testimonials. So still thinking on questions to ask. So, and I've got 7 altogether. So this one is on resources. So really thinking about how much time and money you have. And I'm a firm believer in just focusing on a couple of platforms and doing them really well, instead of feeling like you've got to be everywhere. So Instagram, for example, fairly recently bought out stories. So these sit at the top of the feed, and this is the disposable content. But then they've also brought out Reels. So this is a bit of a competitor to TikTok. So very short form video content. You can also do guides. So it's quite a good idea if you use Instagram to really focus on it and use all the features well, instead of trying to do this on LinkedIn and that there, you know. And of course, once you get good at one, then you can use some of that content to share on others. So if you do spend time putting together a guide on Instagram, then you can share that on LinkedIn as well. So there's ways that you can kind of reduce the amount of time you're spending on all of this. you need to think about who's going to do all of this as well. And if you're in a small business, there might be people around actually that can help you, that are right under your nose and who you haven't thought about, particularly people who are a bit more early career coming up. They might be thinking, well, actually, I'd love to take ownership of one of the social media channels, or I'd love to be able to write the blog, or I'd love to be able to update the website. There's always people around who actually might be itching for an opportunity to help. And if there is a bit more money, then paid promotions on LinkedIn, on social media, are really powerful. Facebook, as we were discussing, it can really extend the reach. So when you've got a particular post that you've made, you want to give it a bit of a boost and make sure thousands more people see it, then putting some money behind it is really effective. And unfortunately nowadays on Facebook, the content doesn't really get seen very much unless you put a bit of money behind it. Poor Mark Zuckerberg's got to pay for his coffees somehow. And so, yeah, if you do have a bit of budget to spend, then social media advertising can be really effective. And the same on LinkedIn, it is a little bit more expensive than some of the other platforms, but it's really targeted. If you're trying to reach people at a certain level of seniority, or who have a certain job description in a particular location or particular industry, then or job ads, if you want to target job ads to people who are going to be a good fit, then LinkedIn advertising can be really effective there. So in terms of positioning, yeah, just think about your resources as well. And then last of all, think about your personal preferences as well. So there's always going to be platforms that you particularly gravitate towards. And I've been in so many conversations with people in workshops who, one person will go, oh, I love Twitter, I'm on it all day, you never get me off it. Someone else will go, oh, it's just all people arguing all day, and oh, I can't stand it. And there'll always be platforms that you particularly feel, where you feel more comfortable and you really get a bit of a joy from using it. And so this guy, for example, this is the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in the US, who you wouldn't necessarily expect to be on TikTok. But this guy here, he looks after the snails. He's the giant snails manager in this Museum of Natural History. And for some reason, he started to tell snail jokes on TikTok. And then he's built up this massive following of people that love his snail jokes. So there's always room to go a little bit kind of left field. Just because your business is, say, professional services and everyone expects you to be sensible, it doesn't mean you can't have a TikTok channel or that you can't go and do fun stuff on Instagram. All it means is that if you do pick a platform that maybe does feel a bit unusual for your sector, really focus on it and do it well. Don't just kind of dip in and then disappear off. Really think about it and try and keep up the joke, keep up this level of activity. So yeah, this guy has got loads of followers, but no one was making him do this. He thought, oh, I know, I'll see what happens if I do some of these jokes. Oh, people are following me, I'll carry on. So yeah, you don't always have to put yourself in boxes. So yeah, last of all, so think about what you like using. Think about the platforms that are important if you're not a fan. So even if you don't like LinkedIn, it might still be important for you to be on there and posting regularly, so you build up that presence. And then put this all together and think about where you're going to focus your time. So yeah, this is this checklist, which I hope is really handy. I would say that because I put it together, but I've really thought through, if I was taking a fresh look at our social media, what are those things that I'd need to focus on to either refresh it, or if I was coming it to completely new, what should I be thinking about? So do download that, it's completely free. We've got some other great stuff. We like, on the Sookio blog, we like talking about new trends and platforms and trying them out for ourselves. So we've got some really good posts there if you look around. Mailing list as well, we share all of this a couple of times a month. And we also do online courses called Sookio School. So we've got some there which are on LinkedIn and Twitter strategy, blogging, digital marketing for events, that kind of thing. So let me stop sharing slides and see how much time I've got for questions. Right, good. Sorry, that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Ollie, hit me with some questions.
No pros, thank you for that. I think, yeah, there's an awful lot of content. There's a lot to think through, and it's not, I think the one big takeaway that I can give anybody is that social media is not something you do and do once. It's very organic, and it's something that basically you've got to be committed to for a long period of time. Don't expect things to change overnight. But just to add into that as well, a lot of the algorithms aren't looking for regurgitation of other people's content. They're looking for original content. And so if you can design or do something that gives value to others, you're always going to get much better interactions than just regurgitating something someone else has said. So it is definitely worth putting the time and effort in to think about, what you want to do and experiment as well, right? Social media is there to experiment. There's no playbook. Otherwise, we'd all be following that playbook to the letter of the law and getting the same results. From your side, when you've looked at these different businesses and different scenarios over time, so the one common theme is, to sit down and really plan this out and execute against it. Would you agree with that? Be committed to it, I think, is the overarching sentiment.
I think that the one thing that people find hard, well, one of the things is around planning, because you can always, it's so fast paced that it's very easy to be very reactive and think, okay, well, I need to do something on Twitter, I need to do something on Facebook. But if you can put aside a little bit of time for planning, maybe if you are in retail, Mondays when the shop is closed, any sort of downtime, or maybe a glass of wine on Saturday night, whatever, when you've got a bit of quiet time to just pause and think about what's coming up over the next month, that can actually save you so much time in the long run, because you're not thinking every day, oh, I need to do something on social media, oh, I need to do something here. You can actually sit down and think, right, well, I know this is coming up in the business, so I'll do some posts about that. I know that this is happening in the wider world, so there might be some kind of topical thing, and you think, okay, so I know that we're going to do something around that. And just taking that moment to pause and think it through, and what you're going to do on each channel, can actually save you so much time in the long run, and actually get you more engagement as well, because you're doing it in a more kind of considered way. So the more planning, but planning is the hardest thing to actually stop and take time and do.
No, it is. And Jake, who's on our team and on this call, he typically plans almost a month in advance. So all of our posts are queued up inside ArcFlux. That's a shameful plug because that's our own platform. But hey, you brought up HubSpot, so I've got to do a little bit of competitiveness here. But the outcome is that, and I'm just going to move on to a question that Tanya's raised here. And actually, there's another trend that came out a couple of years ago, was this whole concept of humanization, which is to expose a bit of your real self when you're posting on social media, and not just make it, a very business level chat. The outcome of this is, when you look at what the social channels are doing with things like stories, that now becomes a really nice vehicle to add that kind of human conversation, which will maximize those engagements. The question is, if you don't do stories, are you going to get penalized by the algorithm? To which I think the answer is no, but you're not going to get the benefit that stories give you through the algorithm, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that, Sue?
Yeah, I wouldn't say penalised. One thing that platforms do, well, penalised may be a strong word, but they don't like it when you direct people away from the platform. So Facebook, for example, loves it when you upload video straight into Facebook rather than sharing a link to YouTube. And the same with LinkedIn. When you write long posts on LinkedIn, if you then link to your own website, LinkedIn goes, oh, I don't really like that, thank you very much. So I wouldn't say penalised for not using stories. What social media platforms want to see, and also Google and other search engines, they do like fresh content. So that's a big driver in SEO. So making sure that you're on the first page of Google, for example, then it wants to see that you've got quality content that they want to visit, and it's being updated quite a lot. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's against you to not use stories. I mean, how we use stories in our company, we tend to think of in Instagram, the content we want to be really lasting, we put on the main grid, and then anything that's a bit more kind of disposable and a throwaway, then we'll put in stories. So for example, I have been going into my office once a week for the last couple of months, so I might do a quick Instagram story while I'm there, little piece of camera or something, go, hi, I'm back at HQ, kind of thing. But it's not terribly interesting for people long term, so we do that just to kind of stay visible, but we know it's not that quality content, to be honest, but it's it's keeping us front of mind. But then anything that's a little bit more, you know, got more longevity to it, like we've been nominated for some awards recently. So right, quick, put that on the grid. Same with our LinkedIn business page. Yeah, get it on there because it's about the business doing well. What about another question?
There's a really good question in here as well, from Helen, which is that, you know, when you start to look at your online persona, what do you typically see as kind of a budget split out between social media and your website? And your website, I'm assuming by that, Helen, you mean things like SEO as well. So the entire kind of, hey, you know, what's the split between social and web, essentially?
I think it depends on where you're getting the where your customers are from. So if you've got a sort of product that is very Googleable, and that's how people are going to be finding you, then spending more money on the website will be better. Whereas if you're something particularly maybe B2C, so I'm just thinking on the fly here, then people might be more likely to find you via Instagram and sponsored posts there, and then that's how they'll eventually go to your website. In fact, yeah. So say if you are a clothes store and you sell blouses, then if you do a Google search on blouses, you know, just imagine how competitive that is, how many other blouse retailers there are. Whereas if you go on Instagram and then you put some money behind some advertising on that, then that it could be that people find you that way. And the website is quite simple. Whereas if you're more professional services, you might want to focus a little bit more on the website because people want to see this very established presence. They want proof that you've been around for quite a while. They want to see some articles, some blog posts. They want to see a nice picture of the team. So maybe, yeah, to focus a bit more on getting a really professional website presence can be good. So it is one of those questions where the answer is it depends. Sorry.
I think that answers the question perfectly, which is it's context orientated and it's where you want people to go and get there. I think there's sort of, you know, if you take, for instance, we're a software company, we produce a software package. So why would we do anything on Instagram? Right? It doesn't seem like a direct fit. But then when you actually start thinking about it, no other software companies exist on Instagram in that way for that reason. So then there's a vacancy that you can go and fill. So, and maybe it's UI design or something like that. So it doesn't always have to be about what you do. It could be a facet of it that you're applying. You go on Pinterest, for an example, and there's thousands of software UIs you can scroll through. So again, it's about finding the relevant bits. James Watt, who's the CEO of the company Brewdog, who were turned down on Dragon's Den that are now worth over $1 billion, right? He's pumping out content all day, every day. And it's silly things like he put one on there 2 or 3 days ago where they just flew a drone through their packaging department. So it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be, okay, this is my business. How do I promote my business? It can be, you know, around your business. What does it look like? What is it doing? I've seen other people talking about, hey, should we go back to an office? We've seen this great space. What do you think? And asking people to comment against it. So again, it's about being slightly more creative and not just, hey, we sell this. Thinking about all the bits that go around the outside of it. And I think that can add to the engagement. There's another question as well from Bethany, which is, do you have any top tips for using socials for an electromechanical component and electronics enclosure manufacturing company to keep it engaging? Our products can be used in any industry, so target audience is vast. Do you have any recommendations for scheduling tools for socials? I'm going to obviously call out Artflux because we do that, but that's self-promotion. But what's your thoughts? I mean, if you're in electromechanical component and electronics closure manufacturing, that's quite niche, surely.
It is quite niche, but this is where the fun starts, I think, because if you are in one of these sectors I've mentioned, like retail and fashion and stuff, it's so easy. You know, you've got all these beautiful products there. It's just, you know, if you're doing a bad job of social media, then, you know, I can't help you. Anyway, but there's so many things you can do. Have a look at, I think it's RM Components. There's a company called Asint, who we did some work with a while ago. And when I was looking for examples to show them. They do supplies for labs, like chemical labs, that kind of thing. And I had a look around at their competitors, and everyone was just doing such a terrible job, you know, just really badly written tweets, no visuals or anything. And Ascent do some really fun stuff over on Instagram where they get the products and they spin them. They'll do things like they're boxing things up, and they'll take some video while they're boxing it up before it gets sent out to someone. So there's so much stuff you can do with what's right under your nose. And if they're what is it again, let me just look at chat. It's electro mechanical component enclosure. Yeah, I mean, I went and did some training with a company who do yacht decking, and they were saying, I mean, I'd never even thought about yacht decking. I mean, I very rarely think about yachts, let alone the decking. But they had this, it was in this industrial facility. Downstairs, they had this long, it was like this long channel of water where they file all this wood and it goes through. And all these machines, and it was so interesting. And I say, you've got all this right under your nose. And I think if you can take that approach of thinking, what's right under our nose, what's beautiful or intricate or an interesting process that we can tell people about, because all this stuff is interesting to people on the outside. So what experts have you got who you can interview? What kind of really close-up photography can you do? And particularly, I keep on talking about Instagram, but don't make Instagram pictures too cluttered. Really, you know, focus in right on that kind of detail on that mug, and think about component parts. And you could do a little day in the life of one of these components. So it leaves the factory or whatever, and then goes out, and you get someone to take a picture at the other end. So yeah, if I were you, I'd hone in on the little bits. So the intricate processes, and also the people behind it. So yeah, send me. I want to see what company it is. I'll give you some more tips. I like hard ones. It's much more fun.
But it's also an opportunity to be creative and think outside the box a little bit, right? And so, if it's blue socks, how many photographs of blue socks can you do on social media, right? So I'm sure there are many, and that's not being derogatory to anybody on the call that sells blue socks, by the way, as their only source of income.
Yeah.
But likewise, there are many things that we can do. I'm conscious of the time, so I think it's been a really useful session. I've thought, really enjoyed listening to some of the insights and some of the questions. Camden Boss is the company. So camdenboss.com. Go, your challenge.
Oh yes, you followed us on Twitter yesterday. I haven't followed you back yet. I will do that straight away.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, Sue. Really appreciate it. We'll make sure that we share Sue's contact details in the email that goes around afterwards. We are in conjunction with the Chamber putting together a market research report on marketing at the moment and what businesses are doing and what they did in 2020. Just really as an insight, in a couple of sessions, I think it's 3 sessions time now, we'll be sharing those insights. If you would like to receive a copy of the research report, you need to be participating in the survey. The survey link I've just dropped into the chat. Could we also circulate that again in the email, if that's okay, Sadie? Awesome. If you want the review and the research report that comes out of this, please be part of the survey, otherwise we won't be able to distribute it to you. We want people to basically put in to get out, if that makes sense. Finally, that was awesome. I really appreciated it, Sue. Over to you, John, to wrap up and your thoughts.
Oh, thanks, Ollie. And really what I just want to do is to thank Sue very much for a very insightful session. I've certainly learned an awful lot, and I've seen the comments and know that other people have found it really helpful. It's really great because Sue and I are normally, I'm normally being interviewed by Sue for her radio program, business radio program, which she does. And a very enjoyable chat we have there. And it's really good for you to be with us today. We do appreciate it, Sue. And of course, Ollie, of course, for chairing as he always does in his inimitable style, which is really great. It's been a fantastic kind of event this morning, and I think we're all going to take a lot from it. I know I am personally, let alone all that I've seen from everybody else. So thanks very much indeed, and thanks for everybody for being with us. And obviously we look forward to seeing you again at future events. And obviously we continue our good relationship with Sue and Sookio. And so back to you, Ollie.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And thank you, of course, to Sadie for arranging these sessions. We've got another session on, quick math in the top of my head. It is the first week of next month. When is it, Sadie? Sorry. I think we've crossed streams a little bit, haven't we? I've got it down as
email marketing, and it is the
13th.
bear
right?
with me. Yes, 13th of April.
Excellent. So by the end of these sessions, hopefully everybody's got their marketing strategy sorted for 2021, all the right key contacts to reach out to help fulfill that strategy. And with that, yeah, make sure you download the social media checklist as well, because it's a great asset. I've already checked it out while we've been on the call, so thank you very much for that, Sue. Multitasking, even with hay fever, there we go. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and thank you very much for attending. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thanks. Bye.